Hi everybody and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, my name is Leah and most of my videos are focused on unsolved crimes and mysteries. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about Kendrick Johnson. Have you heard about him? Kendrick Johnson was a 17-year-old boy attending Lowndes High School in Georgia. And he was a member of the football team, the track team, and the basketball team. Most of the students in the school, they didn't want to pay to use the lockers in the gym. So they would storage their shoes, clothes, whatever they needed inside the gym mats. Kendrick Johnson, he stored his gym shoes inside a gym mat. And one day when he went to pick them up after a Christmas holiday, a lot of new mats had been set up, so he wasn't sure which one had his shoes inside. So he decided to climb on top and look for his shoes everywhere, and he found them. So he laid down on his belly and tried to reach inside the mat to get his shoes. And he slid inside, upside down. And he was stuck, and he was probably crying and screaming for someone to come and help him. But because the mat was so tight around his body and there was mats set up around the mat that he was in, nobody could hear him. There's also some people who believes that he was murdered and rolled up in a mat and put upside down. And when I started investigating this case, I actually wasn't sure what to believe because I felt like it could go both ways. So I wasn't sure. But after I finished my investigation, I have to say I believe it was a very, very tragic accident. And keep in mind, I am not a professional. I'm just me. And everything I say is public information, so go do your own research. This is all just my opinion. I also have to put out a warning because there's some very graphic pictures in the video. But you will be warned during the video, so you're going to be prepared. I tried to blur the images a little bit so it's not too shocking. So I hope that works. So if you're ready, let's do this. So today I'm going to be talking about the death of the 17-year-old Kendrick Johnson. Was it a tragic accident or was it a murder? I've been looking into this case and been checking a lot of evidence, and I believe I can explain some of the injuries on his body that could suggest that it actually was an accident. But there's also some things that doesn't make sense and some things that I can explain that could indicate that it actually was a murder. Let's start from the beginning and then you can decide what you think happened. Kendrick Johnson was a very handsome 17-year-old boy living in Georgia with his parents, Kenneth and Jackie Johnson. Kendrick was 5 feet 10 inches tall. He had beautiful locks, big soft brown eyes, and a big bright smile. Kendrick was a sophomore at the Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia, where he was an honorable student. He loved football, basketball, and lifting weights, and he was also very interested in math and science. Kendrick had a very big family. He had siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents. They were a very close family and they would talk every day or on a very regular basis. He was loved so very much and were known to be sweet but quiet but also loving and caring. On January 10th, 2013, Kendrick woke up in the morning and got ready for school. He kissed his mom goodbye and got on the school bus. Later that day, when the school bus returned, Kendrick wasn't on the bus. Jackie found that very strange because not coming home and not tell anyone that he had other plans was not like Kendrick at all. Jackie started calling Kendrick and his friends, but didn't get an answer. She then started calling his siblings and his father Kenneth, but nobody had heard anything from Kendrick. At 10:30 p.m., she was starting to get annoyed with Kendrick because he also missed his 10 p.m. curfew. She decided to drive to the school and check the parking lot and the surrounding areas. And that's where she saw the janitor that worked at the school. He told her the school had been empty for hours. It was now 12:30 a.m. and she decided to call the police. They called the hospitals and spoke to some of the students from the school, because there had been a basketball game that day, but nobody remembered seeing Kendrick at the game. Jackie went home, but she felt sick and so worried all night long while thinking about all the things that could have happened to her son. The following morning, on January 11th, Jackie drove back to the school to check the school records to see when Kendrick had left the school for the day. It showed that Kendrick attended classes in the first half of the day, but he didn't attend any classes in the afternoon. The police tried to find out if he could have some friends that he could have left with, or if there were some places that he would go to be alone. They were all at a loss, because it was not like Kendrick just to run off and not contact his family, and they knew something must be terribly wrong. It was now 10:30 a.m. on January 11th, and the kids had already started their next classes, and that included gym classes in what is known as the old gym. Many students gathered on the bleachers, just hanging out talking before the bell rang. Just next to them were quite a few gym mats. They were rolled up and standing on their ends. It was normal for kids to climb up on them, find a comfortable place and just hang out and eat snacks. Two girls walked on the mats to find a comfortable seat. To their horror, they saw 2 feet inside a mat that was in the back leaning up against the wall. Someone was inside the mat. They called over a teacher, and the girls, they climbed back down. The teacher moved all the other mats out of the way, and the teacher laid down the mat and saw a boy and quickly realized that he wasn't alive anymore. The gym was evacuated, and the police were called to the office and then brought down to the gym. They had finally found Kendrick Johnson. Kendrick shared gym shoes with a friend, and a lot of the students, they didn't want to pay for a locker, so they used the holes in the gym mats to store shoes and other items. But after Christmas break, more mats were set up there, so he wasn't sure which one had his shoes inside. So he decided to climb up there to look inside several mats, and that's where he found them. He laid down on his stomach and reached inside. He got one shoe out, but the other shoe was further down. He stretched his arm and leaned in and tried to reach it further down, and he slid inside the hole of the mat. Kendrick's shoulders were 19 inches, but the hole was only 14 inches. But when you stretch up your arm, or both your arms, your shoulders become smaller and you can easily slide in.
What you can do with KVA. You can do stuff like that. As long as you don't sue us if you get stuck. So my hips are pretty tiny, so they go in that tiny little hole, no problem. But my shoulders are a little wider. So what you want to do, put your arms up. And then you're through.
When Kendrick was stuck in there wouldn't be enough air, and the mattresses would dim his screams and cries for help. He was stuck with one arm at the bottom and one arm along the side of his body. He was trapped, and he very sadly lost his life. So first I'm gonna show and tell you why and how I believe that this could be a very tragic accident. And after that, I'm gonna share the things that doesn't make sense to me and could possibly indicate that this was a murder. When you see him walking to the gym, he's walking very calmly. There's no indication of stress, walking fast, being worried or looking over his shoulders. Nobody is following him, and he's not following anyone either. Then you see him run towards the mats holding his yellow folder. Nobody is running after him. All the kids there, they're just playing ball, minding their own business. Nobody is watching him, and nothing is going on to make them pay attention to Kendrick or the mats. When he gets inside the gym, he's seen running towards the mats. That could actually indicate that he was just in a hurry, because he didn't have time to move the mats, so he decided to climb on top of them. There was one shoe and one yellow folder found at the top of the mattresses belonging to Kendrick. When Kendrick enters the old gym and he starts running towards those mats, there's something on the left that caught his attention, because you can see him turning his head to the left. But that's where the video stops and a new recording starts, and the students, they just pop up out of nowhere. They say the cameras, they have motion sensors, but it is a bit weird to me. And I saw an investigator looking at those tapes, and he also said it looks like they have been altered. Something is wrong with those recordings.
Those files are not original files. They're not something that an investigator should rely on for the truth of the video. They've been altered in a number of ways, primarily in image quality, and likely in dropped information loss. There are also a number of files that are corrupted because they've not been processed correctly and they're not playable. So I can't say why they were done that way, but they were not done correctly and they were not done thoroughly. So we're missing information. Right now what they've done is they have left it up to the school district to define what it is they want to provide the police.
Do you believe it's a coincidence that that time period in the gym is missing?
Oh boy. Investigators are always suspicious and should be suspicious. And it's suspicious that that time period is not there. So yes, I would be suspicious. And until I have the digital video system in my hand, until I can say, or an investigator can say, everything is intact, this was what's recorded, I would still be highly suspicious of this.
Yes, I completely agree that there's some footage that's missing from the gym. But this is kids. It's kids. It's not trained killers. Do you really think that they would be able to act completely normal, then all of a sudden start a fight with Kendrick, murder him, roll out a mattress? It would take at least 3-4 kids to roll him in there, drag the mat to the corner, lift it up so it's standing, cover it with all the other mattresses, and then clean up the scene. And after that, just go back to playing basketball like nothing happened. Teachers and other students could have walked in at any time. They know there's cameras everywhere in there, and it takes time to commit a murder and clean everything up. These kids doesn't seem stressed out at all, and there's even a lot of kids in there the next day playing basketball. If it's the same kids, I have no idea. But it has been explained that one of the cameras was hit by a ball a few months prior, and that's why the camera is pointing a bit down and is now a bit blurry. Kendrick's left-hand fingers look like they had been broken or damaged somehow. And I have seen an image that shows how some people think that happened. First of all, I don't think that boys or men would fight like that. It's very feminine to me. I know that Kendrick had an LG mobile phone that he kept in his left pocket in his pants. When he was found, the pockets was partially inside out. Isn't it possible that Kendrick hurt his hand? He was desperate and he couldn't breathe, so he was trying to get his mobile phone out of his pocket to call for help. They could also be hurt or broken when he slid inside the mat. If he had a 6 feet free fall and landed on his fingers and face first, that could definitely have damaged his fingers and also bruised his face. If he was at the bottom with his head sideways, that could also explained the injury to his neck. Because he was not stuck in there for a few minutes or 1 hour or 2 hours. He was stuck in the same position for almost 24 hours. Then I saw a picture of his upper body after he was found. And it's full of huge bruises that's black, red, and purple and yellow. Someone believes that that came from a severe beating. But I found out that when a human body is stuck upside down for a long period of time, the insides are pushing and leaning on the heart and lungs, and the blood in the body goes to the upper body, and the veins, they can easily burst.
Hanging upside down was probably something you liked to do as a kid, probably on the monkey bars at the playground. But what really happens to your body when you hang upside down? Your heart works to circulate blood throughout your body and is used to doing so while you're standing, sitting, or lying down. It has a harder time circulating blood properly when you're hanging upside down. Blood will go to your head and stay there because your body will be slow circulating that blood away. Your heart will be overwhelmed with too much blood coming in, and your heart rate will slow. It's used to keeping blood from pooling in your feet, not your head. Gravity will put pressure on your lungs from your other organs pressing against them, reducing your oxygen intake. It also puts pressure on your eyes. Hanging upside down for too long is risky and can even be fatal.
It's like when you hit your arm or leg and get a very nasty bruise. It's because the vein burst. And with Kendrick being stuck in there for almost 24 hours, I think it's very possible that's why he looked so bruised on his chest. Then there's the pictures of Kendrick's face. The first picture shows swelling and a few bruises on his face. I think it's possible he slid down and with his weight, his face hit the floor. When a body is face down for a longer period of time, the blood in the body goes to the chest and the head. It causes extreme swelling and puts so much pressure on your eyes, and when that amount of blood goes to the head and the brain, it can cause a brain bleed, which is a type of a stroke. It causes blood to pool between the brain and the skull. The second picture looks a lot worse. A lot of people are focused on the second picture where Kendrick's face looks very, very swollen and bruised. The second picture of Kendrick's face is the picture that people look at when they say that there's no doubt in their mind that he was severely beaten. His face looks very, very bruised and extremely swollen. But that picture was not taken right after that they found him deceased. So Kendrick was already starting to decompose, and that's why his face looks very damaged and very swollen. When you look at the mat that Kendrick was found inside, you see a lot of blood in the end of the mat on the edge and on the floor. There's no blood inside the mat itself, which tells me that he didn't start bleeding until after he slid inside the mat. There's a few brownish spots inside the mat, but I believe that it's the body fluids from after he passed away, because the blood on the edge looks very fresh. His socks also looks very clean, and so does his white shoes. Wouldn't there be bloodstains on them if he was beaten that bad? The white shoes that was found inside the mat behind Kendrick's knees. If anyone was cleaning up after a murder and dropped his shoes in there, why wouldn't they also remove the yellow folder and the black shoe with the red stains on them and the hoodie? I think it's possible he kicked them off, hoping that they would fly outside the mat, catching someone's attention that could possibly help him. Remember, he was stuck and he couldn't move, so he had to work with whatever he had. And apparently the only thing he might have been able to move was his legs from the knees to his feet.
They pulled down the mat and his legs and feet were hanging out of the mat. He wasn't moving, and the smell, it smelled bad. You could smell it. The shock had, left us all, and we'd realized that one of our classmates had died in our school.
A student from the school told a reporter that when the mat was put down on the floor, Kendrick's legs was hanging out. And I can't help wondering how this is possible, because when you look at the picture, Kendrick's legs are about 20 or 30 centimeters inside the mat. And when they put the mat down on the floor, gravity would make him slide out of the mat head first. So was she even there? Maybe it's just me, but what she is saying doesn't make any sense. If Kendrick was really stuck, his body would not move at all, not even when the mat was put on the floor. But his legs are still 20 or 30 centimeters inside the mat. If he was inside the mat, with his arm on the floor and his head leaning on the arm with a bended neck, as soon as they lay down the mat on the floor, he would be sliding out. I tried to draw it so you can see what I mean. I'm not the best artist in the world, but I think you can see what I mean. I also believe that Kendrick, he was left-handed. He carried the yellow folder with his left hand. He reached inside the mat with the left hand to get his shoes. It was his left hand that was bruised. His mobile phone was in his left pocket. That also shows his moves and actions. It's also hard to plan a murder, making sure everything happens to the left side. With all that being said, there is also some things that doesn't make sense to me and I find very strange. There was blood found on the wall in the gym, and the police said they tested it and it wasn't Kendrick's blood. And then they decided not to find out whose blood it was, because that would mean they had to test 3,000 students. I'm just thinking, with an injury that bad that it would leave that amount of blood, I would probably check the gym teachers, the basketball, football, and wrestling coaches, or maybe talk to the school nurse. Someone must know about this injury. They also said it looked like old blood, and it looked like it had been there for a while. Then why wasn't it removed by the cleaning staff? I saw a video of Kendrick walking in the school hallways, and in the background there's actually a female cleaning lady. She's cleaning the wall or a door. So we know that they do clean the walls. So why is there still a lot of blood on the wall in the gym? Then we have the black shoe and the hoodie. Red stains is seen on the shoe, actually on the side of the shoe. The stains look like blood. It looks like someone was wearing this shoe and was kicking someone and got blood stains on them. But the police claims it wasn't blood, so what was it? Why didn't they bag and tag them? Why didn't anyone come forward saying that it was their shoes? And the same goes for the hoodie. A lot of people say it looked like there's blood stains on it. So why wasn't it bagged and tagged and taken into evidence? And whose hoodie is it? Underneath the black shoe, inside the mat, you see a pool of blood with the shoe on top of it. Inside the blood, there's a sliding mark made by that shoe. How did that get there? Did Kendrick manage to pick up the shoe and then dropped it when he passed away? Or how did that pull and the mark end up under the shoe? Then I heard there was some new audio evidence. Why did the family have to pay $1,000 to receive that?
I quote, "They're gonna catch me anyways. I should have never done this. I was young and stupid. Kendrick didn't deserve this, man." A couple of seconds go by, and he ends with a very tearful, "They're gonna catch me anyways."
The family says the audio was secretly recorded by the person's family member who sold it to them for $1,000.
Is it possible that someone very cruel was making some quick cash on a fake audio recording, just using grieving parents? Why wasn't it just handed over to the police of one of the other agencies from the beginning? There was also some very strange things being said and done by the Johnson family. I know that they're grieving the loss of Kendrick and they're desperate for answers, but listen to this and then tell me what you think. The Johnsons held a fundraiser event. It was believed that the money from the event was going to be used for a reward for information about Kendrick's death. The event raised $8,000, but unfortunately there isn't any record about how the money was spent or what happened to the $8,000. Reverend Rose received a check for $10,000 from a local businessman. It was money that was also going to be given as a reward for information about Kendrick's death. There was a 90-day limit on the check, so if no information came to light about Kendrick within the 90 days, the check was going to be returned to the local businessman. After the 90-day limit, the check was returned because nobody came forward with information. But when the family was asked about the $8,000 from the fundraiser event, they said that Reverend Rose had kept most of it. But the Reverend said that he never handled that money and had not been anywhere near it. It was only handled by the Johnson family. So what happened to the $8,000 is unknown. Then the Johnson family accused two brothers from the Lowndes High School of murdering Kendrick, Brian and Brandon Bell. They said that Brian and Kendrick recently had a fight and Brian wanted revenge. It turned out that they did have a fight, but that was more than a year before Kendrick passed away. Brian and Kendrick had moved past that and was back to being friends again. Then the Johnson family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Lowndes Board of Education. Then they filed another lawsuit for the amount of $100 million. And that lawsuit was against 38 individuals, including Brian and Brandon Bell, the chief of police, the medical examiner, and other individuals. They claimed that the police rolled Kendrick's body up in the mat to cover up his murder. Then the family claimed that the school didn't care about Kendrick or his death, and no one from the school showed up at his funeral. But the truth is that a coach actually spoke at his funeral. Multiple teachers attended the funeral, and 2 school board members was there as well. There was also held a memorial service for Kendrick at his school.
The funeral service was held today at Union Cathedral in Valdosta. Hundreds of people turned out to remember the teen. Everyone who came to say goodbye to 17-year-old Kendrick Johnson dressed in the same colors. Some even had roses.
Red and black, they was his favorite colors, and we're gonna give these roses to his mama.
You could see just how difficult this day was for Kendrick Johnson's parents. Inside, the funeral service was moving and emotional. Kendrick's friends spoke. So did his football and basketball coach. Kendrick's friends still seem stunned over his death.
I know we all expect to die at some point, but we ain't expect him to leave this early. It seemed like it was just 2 weeks ago when we were all talking at McDonald's about what we're gonna do when we grow up. And he was saying he wanted to go to college and play football.
The family also got permission from a judge to exhume Kendrick's body. They wanted a second autopsy done by a medical examiner that they had found themselves. This medical examiner changed the cause of death from positional asphyxia to blunt force trauma to the right side of Kendrick's neck.
Dr. Anderson pressed on with the autopsy, looking for anything else that may have been overlooked before. The family waited patiently for him to reveal his findings. His report stated that Kendrick had died from an unexplained, apparent non-accidental, blunt force trauma.
So he says that this wasn't an accident, it was a murder. But the first medical examiner stands his ground and says it was positional asphyxia without a doubt.
The blunt force trauma that was found by Dr. Anderson was later confirmed by him to be a 3/4 inch or 2 to 3 centimeter bruise found on the right side of Kendrick's neck. The claim is that Kendrick was hit in the neck in that location, which was a specific spot where his carotid artery split, and that caused his Georgia Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Chris Sperry discussed his review of the independent autopsy.
Is it possible Kendrick Johnson's death was a homicide?
No, it is not.
You'd stake your reputation on that.
I stake my reputation on the findings that the doctors in my office find every single day. So this particular case is actually no exception. Yes, I stake my reputation on this.
The family commissioned an independent review.
Yes.
You reviewed the review.
Oh, yes.
And?
The review is woefully inadequate. The report is really inconclusive. It simply states that the death was consistent with blood trauma of the neck without any elaboration. Subsequently, in television interviews, the pathologist has stated that the supposed bruise that he found on the right side of the Johnson young man's neck he measured at between 2 and 3 centimeters, which is about 3/4 of an inch. That's the only supposed injury that he found. And he postulates that the cause of death of Kendrick was a blow to the side of the neck that struck a point where the arteries in the neck split, and that this caused his heart to stop. This mechanism of death, this cause of death, is actually in young people has never been described in the scientific literature, ever. It does not exist.
It was also said that Kendrick's organs were missing, but this letter confirms that the organs was disposed of due to decomposition.
The coroner said the organs were not sent to the funeral home because they were too decomposed and were destroyed through natural process beforehand. The funeral home said they received Kendrick's body without the organs, and replacing them with paper or sawdust is actually common practice while embalming. The president of the National Association of Medical Examiners, Dr. Gregory Schmunk, said he had never heard of this practice.
When making a body ready for public view, it's normal procedure to fill the body with cotton or sawdust. But they chose the old-fashioned style and used newspaper. There was no wrongdoing with Kendrick's organs. Then the family posted a very, very graphic photo on social media of Kendrick's face after the autopsy. They claimed that his face looked like that because he was severely beaten, but that's not true. His face did not look like that before the autopsy. His face was very swollen because of the positional asphyxia, and that caused all his blood to go to his chest, face, eyes, and brain, and that causes severe swelling.
Well, it turns out that hanging upside down isn't all fun and games. Because if you do it for too long, like a few hours or more, you actually could die. Now, it's not a common thing. Most of the reported cases involve people getting trapped upside down somehow, like a man in Utah who got stuck in a cave and died after 28 hours. Medical examiners call these deaths in a head-down position reverse or inverse suspension. The exact reason why hanging upside down can kill you isn't totally clear, because there's a lot of things that could go wrong. In a lot of these cases, the official cause of death is asphyxiation, or lack of oxygen. Physicians have proposed that when you're upside down, your liver and intestines put extra weight onto your lungs, making it harder to breathe. But others think heart failure is usually to blame. If you're flipped around, there's a lot more blood flowing towards your heart than normal, and that makes it harder for your heart to pump it back out. Eventually, your heart isn't able to pump enough blood to keep your body going, which is called heart failure. If being upside down increases stress on your heart, that could also explain why it seems to take less time for older people or people with heart conditions to die in these unfortunate situations. Then there's all that blood in your brain, increasing pressure, and that could rupture a blood vessel and trigger a brain hemorrhage, damaging brain cells. But strangely, forensic scientists haven't seen a lot of brain bleeding in upside down deaths. Even if you don't die, hanging upside down could still be dangerous for your eyes. Your eye is just a squishy orb filled with fluid, which focuses light onto your retina so you can see. And things can go wrong if that fluid is at the wrong pressure. When you're upside down, the pressure inside your eye can double, and a few people have reported temporary vision problems. So it's probably best to stop those kinds of playground challenges and just, avoid death-defying stunts that involve hanging upside down. They're pretty dangerous.
Several graphic autopsy pictures has been posted in their group on Facebook. Why would they do that? I know Kendrick's family are grieving and they are in a lot of pain. Because parents, they're not supposed to bury their children. Of course they want answers. But I have to say that I think it's wrong to share all Kendrick's autopsy pictures with the public. Kendrick should be remembered as the beautiful boy he was, and not as the deceased body on a cold gym floor or on an autopsy table. No matter what, this was a 17-year-old boy. It should have been handled 100% by the book, and every single detail should have been in the report so the family wouldn't be left with any doubts or questions later on. But that's just my opinion. I honestly believe that this was a very, very tragic accident. My heart and my prayers go out to the family, and I'm so sorry for their loss. I hope and pray that they're gonna be able to heal and find some closure. This is definitely a case that's gonna stay with you for a very long time. So that's it for today's video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know in the comment section down below what you think happened. Do you believe it was a tragic accident, or do you believe Kendrick was murdered? And please explain why you're thinking that. Personally, I believe it was a very tragic accident, and my heart and my prayers, they go out to the family. I really hope they will be able to find some closure and heal. I can't even imagine what they're going through. It must be heartbreaking and life-changing. This is definitely a case that will stick with you for a very long time. So until the next one, take care and stay safe. Bye!